about an hour, and if you practice it for about a week, you can actually read pretty well. So do that. But that aside, let's talk about Hydra. He's 89-77, 0-1 in Pro League. He hasn't won a single match just yet. But when it comes to StarCraft 1 stats, this guy is one of the best.
I mean, you've said it before. Anyone who's at 50% or over is one of the best players in all of Korea. And this is one of them. He's been one of those big guys in Brood War, and now he's back here in StarCraft 2 trying to make that name for himself again. And we're going to have to see how he does up against the other player over here. We have Reality, the Terran player coming out for Samsung. His Pro League total stats so far have been 47 wins, 53 losses. Has not played just yet. Actually, Samsung has not yet fielded a Terran, so this will be their first Terran playing for them.
One of the very first Kespa Terrans to play in a televised match in StarCraft 2, and one of the best to switch, actually, in my opinion, to StarCraft 2 early on. Doesn't mean that he's no longer good, but I feel like he hasn't really reached his full potential, and he stopped growing. Like some of the Terran players, like Byung, like Flash, that we saw in the very beginning of Part of the Swarm. Let's go into this very first match, see who takes the lead between CJ Entis and Samsung Galaxy Khan.
LTA는 SK텔레콤.
Up here in the top left, we have the red Zerg playing for CJ Entis. This is Hydra.
Hydra, in his previous match, played against a Protoss player, made a lot of Hydras, and did not end up winning his match. And he's up against this guy, Reality, for Samsung Khan, and the bottom right in blue.
And right after the countdown, we had some of the cheers come out from the crowd. We saw a huge one come out for CJ Entis, and then everybody waited for about 10 seconds. And then one lone guy in the audience said, Samsung White.
Highly favored CJ Entis in this match right now. So we'll see if the crowd momentum can continue to carry them through this game. We don't get to see too often Protoss matches in Pro League. It's actually quite rare, and that's no joke. I mean, just look up the stats. You'll find that last week we only had 2, and one of them was not even played. So this was the only Terran versus Zerg that we saw. One Terran versus Zerg that we saw last week, and this is another really cool matchup. We saw actually earlier today even another ZVT. So a little bit more common to see non-Protosses in this week's matches. We're going to have a Command Center first here, up against a Hatchery first, so things are going to start off a little bit slow in this Zerg versus Terran.
And, Wolf, let me ask you a question. Just knowing both of these players as well as you do, what would you expect coming out of both of these players, just going into this map, taking account into that, and just, the overall feel of going into the first match of Pro League for both of these teams up against each other?
When I look at Reality, what I see is like a chart of a build order that he studied, and he's just going to play it. And he's going to he's got a flow chart. If 2 base mutas, then this. If fast 3 hatchery, then this. Then, if fast creep spread, then poke with my Hellions and my Reapers. That's how he kind of plays it. There's not a lot of flavor to his play, in my personal opinion. I feel that his play is solid. He plays very safe, and he plays very reactionary. Hydra is a player who is extremely timing-oriented a lot of the time. He loves his roaches. He loves to be aggressive. He is not a player who's content to sit back and just macro up and then get mutas out and start to harass and then eventually take a 4th base. He usually attacks early and attacks fast. And with the amount of gas we've already seen him mine here, we'll see if he stays in or if he's going to pull out. Because if he stays in, I'm thinking roaches could definitely be on the menu very early here. And even if not, just speedling pressure is something I would really, really expect to see from him.
Yeah, well, just so far, we get that speedling upgrade coming out right now. Speed for Zerglings, and keeping one guy in gas just for now to keep that very, very slow amount of gas coming in.
Yeah, we saw this earlier, actually, out of Rogue. When he did his roach push, he got just one probe or one drone in the gas after he got that speed research, something that's very common to see, even when you transition later on into doing an aggressive roach push. But we'll see, if he does something similar or if he just wants to be safe and have some gas out earlier for a faster layer tech. The reason why Zerg players pull out of gas, for those of you guys who are a little bit newer to StarCraft, is it increases your mineral mining efficiency, but you can still have just a little bit of gas income to follow things up if you leave one in the gas.
Yeah, it's a good way to not commit to keeping that gas flow coming in when you don't need it, but just to have it there, get that little bit of gas up that you need for the speed, and then take it out, take some of those guys out just for a little bit, continue with the minerals, trying to get your buildings up, trying to get those drones out as fast as possible, trying to get your economy going rather than getting those techs.
Yeah, and the SV get trapped on the outside there. Those pop back into the wall. We're going to have a switcheroo here go down, and, you know, here come the first wave of speedlings. He's going to get some scouting information. There's the production tab finally shown to us now. It's the third hatchery going down for Hydra. No Roach Warren just yet, has not put his gases back in just now. Will start to do so as he takes his second extractor. You know, I was expecting to see something a little bit more aggressive out of him, but it looks like he wants to play the opposite of what you might expect from Hydra, a little bit more safe, a little bit more passively. Something I respect to see, to kind of change up his style a little bit here.
Yeah, he knows that Reality went for that command center first. He knows that he has a bit of time here before a lot of aggression comes out. He knows that Reality's probably teching up here like he is. He is getting that starport. He knows he did see these two Hellions, I believe, so he's going to be ready for that. Walling up a bit at the front.
He's not going to need those early roaches that we saw Rogue have, for example, because he knows that his opponent went for CC first. His timing for the Hellions is much delayed. We have Banshee on the way, which is really interesting. We saw this come back a little bit after the Cloak buff, where cloaking research was, the cost was decreased slightly in minerals and gas. But then people stopped using Cloak, and then people kind of stopped using Banshees altogether in general. Oftentimes when you see a Banshee, you see this much gas for a player like Reality, it's indicative that we're going to actually get to see Mech play. Because he's still mining a ton of gas, going to add some factors up while he harasses here. So I'm actually getting excited about that potential eventuality here, as he's not added any barracks just yet, and I think we're going to see some factories pop down here pretty soon.
I do love to see players who play different from the normal style, who like to innovate, just do things differently. We do have a Banshee as well as a Viking coming out here so far, as well as a bunch of Hellions, so it is looking like Mech so far. And I hope that build order that Reality's following that you talked about before is Mech.
Well, there's the two factories going down, so it looks like it certainly will be. Banshee is a really big cornerstone of Mech in this matchup because they have this mobility where they can move forward and start to pick units off while the rest of the army sits back defensively sieged up in a position. Can also allow you to push creep tumors back, and I mean, there's just so much utility that you get from a Banshee. The harassment alone is something that we're going to see here, just coming in right away. Sorry, my headset spazzed out a little bit. Hopefully you guys are not having audio issues like the ones that I'm experiencing right now. If you are, please do tweet at me at ProxyWolf and let me know, because I would hate for the production not to know if you're having this problem.
Yeah, the best way to let us know is to actually let us know, because then we can try to fix it. But on our end, we've been told that sometimes it's good on the stream, sometimes it's not, so we just love to actually get some feedback from the people who are actually hearing it from their perspective on the stream. So far, still continuing with those two factories, they did go on to Tech Labs, so we are seeing double siege tank production, as well as that reactored Hellion.
Yeah. And now that it's been identified by Hydra what he's up against, he adds 3 techs. The Spire, firstly, secondly the Roach Warren, and thirdly the Infestation Pit. So with these 3 techs, he gets the ability to make roaches, a very strong unit, and a unit that you absolutely need to be aggressive and to deal with a mech army, because you know all the speedlings are not going to cut it, Hydras are not going to cut it. You need the roaches, you need that tankiness. You're also going to need the Spire for Corruptors later on, and perhaps even Mutalisk. If you really want to go down that path, you can try to get a lot done with Mutalisk early on. And what the Infestation Pit is oftentimes used for is Swarm Hosts, but what we're going to see first is a Fast Hive, which will give him the ability to have Vipers. Blinding Cloud basically makes a Siege Tank useless, and the Abduct ability can grab a Thor, grab a Siege Tank, and eliminate it right away.
I love that he's doing this, actually, Hydra. He has a lot of time here. He knows that Reality's trying to get up this big, massive wall of mech. Just try to turtle up here, making this even giant wall in the middle of the map, as our observer is telling us here. And he knows he has a lot of time. He can make those 3 tech buildings at the same time. He can go up to Hive right away. He's even getting a Hydra stand now. He's going to be prepared for everything. He's even building 1 Corruptor on the way.
1 Corruptor. That means he'll have at least 1 Corruptor.
At least 1.
There it is. Hello, Corruptor. I know that you're here at least.
At least him.
There could be more of them later. Here's a scan that actually will reveal the Hive timing. And if he looks very closely, well, he's not going to see it finish, just barely not. But that's fine for him. He's like, well, I still got away with my 3rd base for free, and I'm getting really solid upgrades, which now, in the recent patch, affect my air and my ground equally. What we've seen a lot of the time in this type of matchup when you go to late game is more Banshees to control the Swarm host with some scans, because they can fly over the top of the Locust and then get some real damage done to the Swarm host. And in very rare cases, if we go to late game, we see battle cruiser transitions out of Terran players because they're so tanky and they do a lot of damage. Oftentimes that transition can be hidden from a Zerg, the same way that a carrier transition in Terran versus Protoss might be hidden from a Protoss and Brood War. It's not quite the same thing, but it's one of those high-tech capital ships that really, really can catch a player off guard if they're not ready for it. I think what we're going to see with 1 or more of these orbitals is actually just planetaries to help turtle against the Locust.
And I really like this. I feel like this is going to be one of these games, we haven't seen a lot of really long games so far. I think one of the longest we've seen was, Sora against Flash, that really long late PvT, but here we're actually going to see Mech against Zerg. He's going to continue making his wall all the way across, keep expanding, getting the planetaries up. He's going to be super defensive, get a huge 200 army up. He's going to get a bunch of factories, going to be able to remax really quickly. He's just really bunkering down right now and preparing for late game. He said right after getting the 3rd expansion, he's like, okay, I'm going to get mech. I'm going to be prepared for anything. I'm going to have orbitals up. I'm going to have planetaries up. I'm going to have a bunch of siege tanks. I'm going to be able to stop anything you throw at me. I'm going to have a wall. And he's just going to wait until he's at 200.
He's got a sensor tower. He's got a 2nd one on the way. He has high-sec auto-tracking for not only his turrets, but most importantly his planetaries. Will also affect Ravens later on in the game as well, if we do get to that point, which is actually quite common in Korea. I'm not sure what happened behind that command center, to be honest. I think he might have actually killed some of his own units because he feels he has too many SCVs. Something died back there.
Some destruction or some deaths.
I saw some bits of something flying. We do have that cloak research coming out for Banshees now, and if he can actually eliminate the Overseers with his Vikings with good targeting. Hold that thought. We're going to see some blinding cloaks most likely going down here, abducting a few of the Vikings, actually eliminating those instead. Interesting choice. Wow, that was an interesting choice, but it looks like he's trying to take air dominance. The problem being that the ground army is really the problem at this moment in time.
He is getting that ultra extend up as well. He's going to wait. He's going to be prepared for everything. He basically has every tech. It's almost like these 2 players were like, okay, let's go both max 200, get as many upgrades as possible, and then we'll fight.
No rush 20.
Yeah, basically. I mean, we see Hydra taking that base over there to the right. He wants that base. You want to make sure he gets it up as soon as possible.
Yeah, and the base to the bottom left as well. He's taking every hatchery that Reality hasn't claimed. The only unclaimed base currently on the map is actually the one at the 9 o'clock position, so wouldn't be surprised if Reality goes for that because he's really going to need it a little bit later. Remember, a Zerg player like Hydra can remax instantly if he takes a fight convincingly, or even if he trades evenly, he can remax, something that Reality cannot do. He doesn't have the gas bank, he doesn't have as many bases, and quite frankly, he doesn't have enough factories. You can't make 30 factories to make 30 siege tanks at once. It just doesn't happen.
Or if it did, this would be basically the first game we've ever seen it. But that would be really cool to see if that could happen.
That would be fastest map possible, but I'm a little bit concerned about how Hydra is moving across the map here. He's trying to find an opening, and he's starting Swarmos now. Okay, I like this a lot because when you have Swarmos, you basically just make free units. It's a shot of Coach Park, the CJ Antis coach, former EGTL and SK Telecom T1 coach. He's been around a long time. Definitely coached a lot of teams that I've commentated. And what Reality needs to do now, there's basically 2 objectives. Hydra's doing the Anaconda plan, where he's just trying to squeeze his opponent down and trap him and build a bank and build larva. What Reality's objective is to move out and slowly eliminate bases one by one or eliminate the entire Zerg army once cost efficiently so that he can continue to move across the map. It's going to take a long time, though, against this much creep.
Well, this is what he wants to do right now, starting over here to the right, moving his siege tank forward slowly and carefully. There's not enough of these Vipers to take out too much stuff. He does grab that Banshee, but is not able to take it out. It takes a bunch of damage on his ground force.
Yeah, you know, that was actually something that hurt him more than helped him that he grabbed that Banshee, considering how much he committed to actually attacking it. This CC may eventually find its way over to where that hatchery now stands. A few Banshees eliminated here. He's actually going to get maybe the Raven as well. No point defense strong. And this is starting to be pretty competition right now for Hydra. The more he can eliminate like this, the more that gas blank is going to deplete for Reality, who really has, later on in the game, a bigger problem for Remax than Hydra.
Yeah, like you said before, just continuing to save up all that larva. You see his bank right now, 6,000, 2.5. We see Hydra now even taking that bottom base towards the south. We see Reality just trying to slowly push forward. He wants his base over here to the right. He knows that he can't be squeezed out for too long. Even if he takes it super long and he has a super defensive force, if he just has less of a bank than Hydra, then he's not going to make it very late. He knows this. He's trying to take the base forward. He's trying to prepare for that super late game.
8 Spine Crawlers on the way. 6 Ultras just popped. 3 upgrades for... Well, plus 3 missile attacks and plus 3 melee upgrades. I believe he already has the Carapace upgrade. Plus 1 Carapace for his Flyers. Plus 3 attack for the Flyers. Adrenal Glands, 13 creep tumors at a time. Hydra's not messing around. He knows how to play the late game. On the other hand, the mech army is getting stronger. 2 upgrades, which apply to air and ground. The Corvid Reactor, which applies to all Ravens built after that point in which it completes. Even the Blue Flame upgrade. He's trying to find a weak spot here. There's not a whole lot of siege tanks. Widow Lion's helping out a little bit as well. This wall is not long for this world. He's actually going to have to reposition a lot of his army, and this gives him an opportunity to attack in the north.
And look at this huge line of siege tanks that has to come down here and defend this. Like you said, it's going to make that north really weak. So far, Hydra not sending much over there yet, but we see it on the mini-map. He's starting to move forward in the north. He's sending even these units into the main base, trying to distract just as much as possible for that attack in the north.
I can't believe he even allowed that to go into the main base. He's actually attacking his orbital. He's going to get a lot of SCVs here. Might affect some of the infrastructure as well. His Ultras are not going to do a critical amount of damage, but they're still getting a lot done because they weaken that northern part that we talked about. Locusts are coming to start to damage those units. Notice that the supply and the bang for Reality right now is depleting quite rapidly. We had a moment where Hydra went down to about 160 supply, and he stayed there for a while because he was trying to decide what units he wanted to make, because he could make whatever he wanted, literally. And he's decided to add a few more Swarm Hosts in and reinforce his Ultralisk count right now.
Yeah, even after remaxing base and producing 200, they're not quite there yet. He's making another Overlord. He still has 8,000 minerals and 4,500 gas. And those Locusts that now cannot be instantly killed at the top by all those tanks out of their position. We're chipping down away at that north like we were saying before.
This actually affects his wall. The creep stops the wall from getting in here.
Yep.
He can scan and eliminate most of those, but this also means not only is he having trouble reinforcing his wall, but he's losing territory, he's losing space, and he's also allowing these units to move faster when they attack. The creep tumors tank a lot of siege tank shots, and here we go! Infested Terrans on top of the siege tanks, the Queens in the back, ready for transfuses, and Reality is in a lot of trouble here. Yes, Hydra is dropping in supply, but he has that bank, something that Reality just no longer has.
And he has all of these investors in the back starting to lay down bungles, as well as all these queens here for the anti-air. He's starting to, as well, bring the Swarm Hosts over there, trying to get these Locusts to do some damage down to the south as well.
7 Ultralists being made at a time to remax. He can make whatever he wants. That's what he chooses. He's also getting Hydralist speed, because why not when you have this much money? And also Hydras might be something you can reinforce with later, especially if air becomes a problem. 4 Banshees at a time, speaking of which, being made right now for Hydra, who's slowly but steadily losing more and more ground here. The fact that he's able to mine up here the top right is really critical. But money is never going to be a problem for Hydra, most likely, for the rest of this game. He has total control. He owns every base from the center to the west. And Reality's not taking any of those bases anytime soon. He's not moving out anytime soon.
Yeah, it's even so hard for him to clear all these creep tumors. Like you said before, right when Hydra went in, the siege tanks were shooting a lot at those creep tumors, and that they tanked a little bit of the shots, and the Ultras even just got a little less damage on them to do extra damage to this bottom wall. And Reality trying to remax as best as he can while Hydra Hydra just has a huge bank and so much larva. He's now getting his Greater Spire as well if he decides to go for anything, any Broodlords in the future.
This is a very textbook example of how to deal with mech as a Zerg who's not attacked early and no damage is done to you early. If you're playing against a mech player, say Maru that we saw earlier in the Terran versus Protoss, if he does damage to you and then goes in the mech, it's basically lights out for you. It's almost impossible to transition. But if you play against a passive mech player, you take the whole map. You spread creep everywhere, and then suddenly the Terran player is suffocating. He's being choked by the Anaconda Zerg, basically, is what I like to call it, because it's really reminiscent of a snake squeezing you out. Look at the map. Just look at the map, the mini-map itself. It tells you the story.
Yeah, if you look at more than half of this map, it's all purple and red, of course, the color of Hydra. We saw that larva bank was nearing over 60. Now 10,000 minerals, 8,000 gas, whereas we see a really low bank of reality on the other side of things. We haven't even seen Hydra remax yet because he's not sure.
Yeah, he doesn't know what he wants to make yet. Meanwhile, Banshees are actually giving him a bit of trouble because he does not have the protection over here. This is actually one way that a Terran player can come back to a game like this. He sees there's no infestors, gets in and does his damage before the fungals are ready. Now he's going to go and do it again. These Banshees are basically the sharks for reality here, roaming around the map, actually preying on the innocent drones on the edges. One Spore Crawler here, not going to be enough, though. He's going to need a little bit more than that.
Yeah, like you were saying before, 4 Banshees at a time, and now a very big Banshee force that all has Floki sending this little ninja force here with 4 of these Banshees to come around and start trying to do damage to the economy of Hydra.
It's also that the Banshees have +2/+2 right now, so they're doing even more damage to ground units than you would expect them to do. And they also have the armor to help shield a little bit against those fiends. We'll finally get killed here. These Banshees can be replaced relatively easily, but any gas that reality has to spend is a bigger problem than any gas that Hydra has to spend. Just looking at the bank, remember, looking at the bank we have right now, don't forget that soon these bases are going to mine out. And once that happens, reality's going to have to move. And if he doesn't move, the 3 units that Zerg offers him are going to wear him down. They're already starting to.
Yeah, just with these swarm force alone, just continuing to send out this is going to be hard to deal with. We do have a lot of Ravens for reality, though, so they are going to be able to use a bunch of their energy. When it comes down to the super late game, all the bases are mined out. He is going to be able to use a bunch of those energy units to help him out there.
Notice the point defense drone really helps in assisting these Banshees to move forward. It works against Corruptors, it works against Queens, and also Hydras if that becomes a problem. So he's slowly but steadily retaking a little bit of ground here. Stops the mining at the 9 o'clock, and it's really because of those point defense drones. I also love that he adds these auto turrets. I believe he researched building plating. I'm not sure. I know for sure, though, that he did research the auto tracking, so the turrets are going to have a little bit more range to them. There is a fusion core, as you guys can see on the structures tab, and 149 creep tumors. So the transition to battle cruisers, albeit expensive, is something that we could see potentially as something that reality tries because he wants to surprise his opponent, and he already has the infrastructure with all the tech labs on his starports. And he's also got a decent amount of air control here, too.
Yeah, he's continuing to build a bunch of Ravens. You see now 3 and 3 going for Ravens and Viking Granite. He's trying to get that air control. Could wait to get air dominance here, but hold that thought. Tons of Queens and Ultras going against all of these planetary fortresses and tanks in the back. He's eventually going to have to back off, but he wants to start breaking out of that wall with this huge bank.
This is starting to look like the final mission of the Wings of Liberty campaign on Brutal. And there's no pulse crystal, there's no artifact for reality to use to kill all of the Zergs, so I'm starting to worry for him a little bit here. There's the weapon refit. He even starts a second fusion core. I'm not sure if that's so you can get the behemoth reactor right away or not, but either way, he is going to have 2 of those, and we are going to see that battle cruiser transition I talked about. This is what I was talking about with Banshees. If you have a small squad of them, and you have that vision of the Swarmos, you can pick 1 or 2 of them off. You just have to be very careful about dodging the fungal growth.
Yeah, if you get all your Banshees caught in the fungal growth, then all of your Banshees go down, and you do not have that task force to go in there and take out the Locust, which severely hurts your army. We see here now, he is trying to move over here to this left base. It is not completely mined out. Hydra doesn't quite want to let him do that. He's trying to slowly move forward a bunch of spine crawlers as well as trying to poke with his corruptors.
There's the Behemoth reactor being researched right now. The timing didn't really overlap all too much, so I guess making the second fusion core was probably a mistake, but at least he's got a backup, I guess. He can't make any battle cruisers right now because he's maxed out, but I think as soon as he trades any of his units, he's going to start that switch. And with the sensor towers that he has, notice he has a sensor tower at his natural, which gives him all that dead air zone back there. He can stop any Overseer from coming into his main base to see the composition. That's where all these floating units behind this base are for as well as the sensor tower to the north. There's no way that Hydra's going to find out about the battle cruiser transition without Reality being able to know the Overseer's on the way and stopping it. So he's going to be able to keep this hidden for sure.
Yeah, and in the meantime, adding 4 more Ravens. Not much action so far, continuing to just move forward. These spine crawlers just slowly does not want to let Reality move forward at all anymore. He wants to keep him back where he is, continue with this huge bank that he has, just wait for anything. And again, this task force, the Banshee's back here again, just wants to stop all mining, continue to try to take more ground. This is really strong. So far, Hydra hasn't had the best answer to this. And with those Banshees in the top, he's going to start moving forward with all of his tanks. Look at all these tanks down here in the bottom. They're almost 20 of these at least, and they're going to start moving forward. They're going to siege up right now. Continue to take out a bunch of these guys.
Oh, they could maybe, the Vikings could maybe get some Broodlords. Where are the Corruptors? I think they're on the hunt for those Banshees, like you said. Point defense run here helping out a little bit. He doesn't get the Broodlords like he would like to. He's not 100% sure where the Corruptors are. I think they're actually killing those Banshees right now, where the hatchery at the natural for Hydra actually does survive. I'm looking at the mini-map. Banshees are definitely splitting and run away over there. We still have only remaxes in Ravens. It looks like until Reality secures a little bit more gas income, he's not confident to remax with battle cruisers. All of the Banshees at the top left have been isolated and killed. I am like the mini-map watcher. Even if you guys can't see it, I'll try to give you guys as much updates as I can.
Wolf's got his eyes all over that mini-map.
I got my eyes peeled. That phrase always made me think of onions, and it made me feel really weird and made me want to cry like onions do.
It always made me feel really grossed out because I don't like the idea of peeling your eyes. Like, imagine taking a knife to your eye and like peeling it off. It's almost like, you know, the early days of LASIK, basically, where people would. I guess it wasn't really called LASIK back then because it was with a laser. But
overextension there perhaps on those Corruptors. Eat some heavy shots, but as long as the Corruptors don't die, it doesn't matter because they're gonna live to fight another day. Oh, that was a sick dodge on that Pungle. Do you ever dissect cows' eyes in your biology class?
No, I did not do that. Thankfully, that sounds really gross.
I did that. It gave a new meaning to keep your eyes peeled. But I hope nobody watching the stream is well. Anyways, I hope nobody
squeamish.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Anyways, once you dissect a cow's eyes, not a lot really freaks you out, but
you can go anywhere you want on the internet and just be totally fine.
Well, I don't know about anywhere, but there are certainly some new websites unlocked. The thing is, we're going to be at this point in this game potentially for quite some time, as slowly but steadily the battlecruiser count gets higher, and quite frankly, Reality's bank gets smaller. Because look at the bank of Hydra, 15,000, 11,000 to 3,000, 1,000. Point defense drones are great for efficiency. You can see just how much they're able to absorb from those Corruptors, but I mean, he's doing little things like dropping mules on this watchtower to grant himself vision because he knows one misstep with fumbles and the game is over for him. Is he going to commit here? A few Ravens get caught. It looks like he may commit. So many Seeker missiles launched here. The Broodlord's not able to escape.
And so much damage going on to all of those Broodlords. Only 2 of them left. And the battle cruisers, like you said, they're coming out. The transition is being made, but 13 Corruptors at the same time. Hydra's got to know what's coming out here, as well as making 3 Broodlords and 5 Infestors.
He's just able to remax instantly. I mean, the thing is, those Ravens were pretty cost efficient, but remaxing battle cruisers is eliminating all of the gas right now for Reality. he needs to make these battle cruisers worth it. And oftentimes they are. They're very expensive, very heavily upgraded capital ships. You know, you ask a Broodlord if he wants to face a battle cruiser, he's going to tell you no. You know, when it comes to Zerg capital ships, they've got that Broodlord unit, which is good at sieging, but not good at aerial battles. Here we go. Ultra is coming in from the north. A ton of damage being done to those Corruptors. Looks like he's overextending himself a little bit. No investments for support, and suddenly Hydra drops down to 106 supply. How is he going to remax, Brennan? That's what we're going to wait and see.
We saw his supply drop plummet down to basically 100. He's starting with the Infestors, and he has so much minerals and gas to do whatever he wants, but so far only 3 Infestors. A really nice fight there for Reality, but like you said before, his bank, you see his gas. What is he going to make with 200 gas? Not much more. We see 29 Corruptors and 13 Broodlords coming back in instant remax for Hydra.
Auto turret, anyone? Reality comes over here and drops what looks to be about 15 auto turrets on top of this base. Even with the upgrades, he targets Smiley. They might be able to actually kill this hatchery. I don't think there's any gas left here. It looks like the extractors are mined out, but the minerals could be useful later, depending. Yeah, both the extractors definitely mined out here. The choice to make a ton of Corruptors for Hydra is a smart one, because he knows this is going to become a battle of energy and air. That's how all these matchups go when you get to the late game, where you cross the 40-minute mark, the whole base starts to get mined out. The first thing you want is energy units. The second thing you want is air, because it's the most mobile and also can fire upwards and downwards. You know, there's just like a lot of versatility there. What I would like to see, the one research that's really missing for me, is Neural Parasite. That's something you can definitely make use of. Uh-oh, if Reality loses this army, it's the only army he's ever going to have. All of his units so stacked up here. The Infestors, on the other hand, struggling to approach. And so far, some decent trading here by Reality. Cannot get bungled again.
Yeah, a lot of bungles are going onto all of those Ravens and a bunch of those Vikings. Those Corruptors are trying to fight as well, but the Seeker missiles blowing up a bunch of the health of the Corruptors, not doing too much damage. But again, we just see the supply plummet more for Reality, but now we see all of those minerals and gas. Hydra's going to use them up again, make basically whatever he wants so far. It's Roaches and Queens, 6 Queens coming out so far.
Queens are those energy units that I was talking about. You want the transfusion energy, you want that versatility. Queens can attack air units. They have a great amount of range, and in a late game scenario where the map is basically mined out, and it's almost a stalemate, you're going to want those transfuses. You want to spam the transfuse on top of your opponents, or on top of your Corruptors and on top of your Broodlords, while your opponent's army is, trying to fire at them at a distance with those Vikings, with the Seeker missiles. Point defense drones going down. You got to wear through that as well. Queens can also eat up that point defense energy. Reality is in about as good of a place as you can be as a Terran player in late game against Zerg once you cross that 40-minute mark and the Zerg has built that bank. Which means he's not in a good place, but maybe he can actually get something done here with this army that he's built. So he's going to actually kill a lot of these Harvesters. And that's all he's really going to be able to do, these Hellions, so I don't blame him for trying to get something done here. And he can always remax with those, because those only cost minerals.
Yeah, it's a very good idea there. Having mostly minerals, he wants to use them up and do some damage at the same time, building those Hellions. We see Hydra now trying to poke again at this base. He doesn't want to Reality keep this up. He is sending those Broodlords forward, continuing to drop those guys onto those bases, and he's not going to want to get up those Yamato cannons coming out, doing a bunch of damage to the Broodlords. The Queens in the front, able to tank a bunch of damage, but 2 of those going down.
Yamato cannon, such a useful upgrade when you're dealing with these Broodlords, these Corruptors at a distance. You queue that up and you're basically just signing a death warrant for those units. There is no escape from a Yamato shot. If it gets queued, if it gets fired, it's over. You're going to lose that unit. So, really nice upgrade to have with increasing the cost efficiency for Reality. This base at the 9 o'clock, or rather the 6 o'clock, is so crucial to him, because without that base, he has nothing. He cannot make anything else. Taking the base to the 12 doesn't have any gas. The only base left, actually, I think the only base left on this entire map with gas is that 6 o'clock base. I think every other gas has been exhausted. And that's the last gas we're going to see. There's no gas income right now for Hydra. So we're not all those units, those Roaches there, the last gas units we're going to see from him unless he retakes that base at the 6 o'clock. There's no gas left.
And that could actually be a problem here. The army that Reality actually has is just so efficient. So many Ravens, so many battle cruisers here. he's going to be able to fight very, very efficiently against what Hydra had. Before, what Hydra had was the ability to continue remaxing, continue going for it, but now he's run totally out of gas.
1,280 gas is very important. Vespene gas wave there. Oh, that battle cruiser going very far forward here. And here come those corruptors. Right now, Hydra's starting to realize it's a very important moment for him. Secret missiles galore, all connecting here with those corruptors. And great engagement here by Reality. Is that Terran cost efficiency pushing him through? More and more queens being added right now. It's the only thing that Hydra wants to add because it's all he can afford. It's the most mineral efficient unit that he can get right now. But still, I'm starting to really, really like Reality's position here with all the gas he's continuing to mine and the cost efficiency that we already see from him here.
Yeah, it's all about that gas, like you said. It's the one base on the map that has the gas. Hydra has no more gas left unless he takes that base, but he can't because Reality is just parking that crazy composition right over that base. So Hydra cannot go in there. He keeps trying to fight. He's realizing I've run out of gas. All I can do is make a bunch of queens, which are good units in themselves. They are pretty good against air, and they do have that energy to continue with the transfuses. But besides that, he's not able to make anything else.
Well, I feel like what Hydra needs to do is get some excellent fungals. Like that's the winning move for him. If he can get fungals that are on point and he can eliminate those Vikings, that's ideal. And so he needs to make sure he keeps his infestors at the front and also needs to stop the gas and come here as best as he can, which I'm really liking how he's doing here very patiently. The infestors are ready this time. If he just tries to charge in with all of his Vikings and his Ravens, it's not going to meet a happy ending here.
What I would love Reality to do is just move that CC over just a bit so he can continue mining from that gas.
Yeah, just mine from not at the mineral location.
Yeah, he's doing it from long distance, but I would love if his CC was just a little bit closer and he put it down there. Maybe he wants to keep the tanks there, but he's doing a good job at least mining from it. That's very, very smart. And remaxing with Hellbats and a bit of tanks like we saw before.
The CC also gives him a little bit of vision. As you can see, he's kind of starved for it. That's why he's dropping all those scans. And he can basically scan his to his heart's content with all the extra orbitals he has. In fact, the scans that you see here may actually become a common theme. He may literally be scanning for the rest of the game because there's no reason to not do it because he has that much energy. I wouldn't be surprised if we just see another scan drop right now and then he just continues to do so, scanning over and over again. There it is. You saw it at the last second there. Oh, he's trying to mine out his opponent's base. That is really cool. Taking away the last of the minerals here with some mules.
I mean, when you have so many orbital commands, you can just do this. Like you said, you can either scan over and over and over and over again, or you can send a bunch of mules here, take away as many minerals from your opponent as possible. This is what it comes down to when the game goes this long. We're already right now at 50 minutes, by far the longest Pro League game.
Yep. If you take the minerals, by the way, that's 30 per trip. And even if the mule doesn't make it back, the minerals die and they'll never be seen again. So he's basically just trying to take them away from Hydra more so than he's trying to take them for himself. Because for a Terran player who's going to be probably at max around 2,000 resources for the rest of the game in minerals, you're not really concerned about any minerals because they're not going to be useful to you. What are you going to build? A bunch of turrets? A bunch of Marines are going to try to add some barracks? You're not going to get a whole lot out of that.
Just about. We saw a Broodlord go a little bit too close, get taken down by a Yamato cannon. Little mistakes like that can lead to little advantages, which can lead to big advantages.
This is the reason why energy units are the most important in this type of situation. He's going to pick another one off here, it looks like. And this very cautious move forward by Reality is so hard to punish by a player like Hydra. Every 150 gas he gets, every little piece that he gets is so important. Wow, that has 872 gas left in it. That's actually quite critical.
That's a huge mistake.
Oh,
right here.
and you know what?
He actually take these.
He actually has. There's more gas on this map.
Everybody in the studio is like, what?
Oh my God, that infestor! That's so brave. He doesn't kill anything though, but that's actually crazy that he was able to get in there that close. I don't think Reality minds too much because he got 2 infestors out of it, but this is the desperation that Hydra finds himself in right now.
Yeah, that was Hydra like basically saying, what can I do here? Maybe if I chain a bunch of fungals in here, maybe I can take out a bunch of these air units. But he tried with 2 and he realized exactly what was going to happen. Just continue with the wheels. He tries to take the fire and get another fungal down, but they're just going to get repaired.
What he's basically doing here is saying, I'm trying to set up for the best engagement because you can't afford a repair. Nice Yamato there on the Queen, but he's actually going to maybe get a battle cruiser. These are these little pickoffs that we're going to see over and over again until the final battle. And if he can get a few good fumbles, ooh, this is not good. That's losing way too much. But if he can damage these Vikings, he's eliminating his opponent's remaining gas with the repair, and once the gas is gone, there's no more repair. So what his idea here is, I'm going to damage these Vikings as much as possible so that when the final engagement happens, I'm going to take this 94 Zerglings on production. They have 3-3 and adrenal glands. So he could actually try to run by and go into the main base and start hurting that infrastructure. Would really like to see that. I don't think that's his plan here. We also see Hellions being rebuilt for Reality, also using the rest of his minerals.
It seems like both of these players using up the last of what they have. We see a huge Queen and Zergling and Infestor army coming in here.
This is going to be it! Here we go! The Queen's running in! So many of those Infestors being gunned down before they can even fight! There's not enough of APM in a human body to be able to transfuse as much as he would like to here, and this Zerg army is absolutely crushed! And it just goes to show, Terran efficiency, the longer you stay, the better things get for you. And it looks like this is going to be it for Hydra Reality. Crushing the last of this army. Hellbats clean up the Zerglings. GG.
That was the last-ditch effort out of Hydra there. He tried the best he could. He remaxed with all of those Queens and Zerglings. Went for a final attack, but like you said, the efficiency of the Terran army in the end, all of those battle cruisers, the Yamato cannons coming out, the Infestors getting done down almost immediately. Just basically trying to do what he could. Eventually, in the end, Reality takes the first win in this matchup, 1-0 for Samsung over CJ.
Welcome to Game 1. This is the kind of game that I am expecting to see a lot of. A very close, very back-and-forth series. Neither player extremely in the lead. A lot of sloppiness in the late game, in my personal opinion, from Hydra. Allowing the battlecruiser transition, not enough pressure. Didn't use his Swarmos as well as he could have. Could have switched into Swarmos a little bit earlier to continue to stop that base from mining. Swarmos require scans to be eliminated, and once there are enough corruptors, I feel like the only way to eliminate those Swarmos is to move forward battlecruiser and Ravens. Try the Seeker Missile maybe. Maybe could have done a little bit more with Swarmos. But once that battlecruiser count gets that high, with the Ravens to support as well, what can he do as a Zerg? Doesn't matter how big your bank is, you're never going to kill that position.
Yeah, and he had to know in the back of his mind that if he waited long enough, it was going to come to this. I mean, he's played enough games to play against a Terran who is